Hey, what's up? My name is Edward, DJ Purple Love, founder of Bacpak, the DJ booking app. This podcast is designed for DIY, do-it-yourself event planners. I myself am not an event planner, so every week I sit with experts in their specific fields to give you the tools to elevate your event from a gathering to an actual party. This is From Gathering to Party. And we are back. Today we are with Holly Hight, Event and Development Coordinator at Innovate Pasadena. How are you today?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Today, Holly will be talking to us about tips and tricks for producing a budgeted event. But before that, as always, we talk music. What are you into today, Holly?
Well, the song that I shared with you is called Tilted by Christine and the Queens. And it's a song that it's a few years old, but I just love the way she brings in French language into this song, and it just has a really good vibe to it.
Got it. Where do you see this song being played at an event, if any?
Yeah, I think it would be like a great for kind of a museum opening, an exhibit opening, or an art show.
Got it.
Just a really cool kind of like cool kid vibe.
Yeah, I can see that. I've watched the music video, and I feel that artsy museum vibe going on. So yeah, awesome. Awesome. She has a great voice too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of the other reason I picked it is there's a line later in the song where she says, "I'm doing my face with magic marker," and my 4-year-old has picked up on that line.
Really?
Yeah. All
right, so let's talk tips and tricks.
Great.
So, what is the first thing that an event planner should think about when producing an event?
Well, I think you need to, when I produce any event in my career, I think a lot about the audience and who's coming. Okay. What are these people into? What's going to make people happy when they come to the event? What's kind of the ultimate goal? And I think for the work that I do at Innovate Pasadena, we have an audience that's very plugged into technology. They're entrepreneurs. They're doing their own startups. And so when I first started the job, I really wanted to make sure that we were, creating an environment where people could really have deep connections with each other. So we did a lot of different experiments in the events to try and foster those kind of connections. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is just having really good food and great drinks.
Okay. So let's dial it back just a little bit. So say I want to just produce an event. It could be anything, but I've got $250. Where should my mind be? What should I be thinking on focusing on? I might have this grand idea, but I've got $250 to execute on this. Where should I go first?
Yeah, I think that just really prioritizing what you think, where you're going to get the biggest bang for your dollar. Okay. So if you're throwing an event where you think it's really important to have great food at that event, looking into caterers who are going to give you a discount or give you a deal where they're selling. We've had really good success with going with caterers who are giving you a per item price rather than a per person price.
Awesome.
So that is a really great strategy, is just to look at like, I'm going to pay $2 for a slider that's going to feed, and we'll get 100 of them. And then, there you have $200 worth of sliders. So
how do we navigate that water? When we talk about partnership and working out the best deal, say with the caterer or florist, what's that conversation look like?
Well, I think when I've gone to caterers, I've just expressed like, this is our goal for this event. And I found some people who have share our mission or our vision for the event, and they kind of get it. Early on when I started working for Innovate Pasadena, I would approach a lot of caterers and they'd be like, the only way you can do that event successfully is if you're paying $25, $30 per person.
Wow.
And I was like, that's not true.
Wow.
And so I've slowly kind of built up, I guess Rolodex is the old term for it, of caterers who really get us and they understand what we're trying to do and the purpose of our events. And they're really there to support the community of entrepreneurs that are coming and designers who are coming. So I think really just finding people who share your vision for what your event is going to be, I think is a great place to start.
You figured out your event. Now you got to get the people there.
Mm-hmm.
What's that look like?
Yeah, it's a lot of individual personalized invites. I mean, we really stress building relationships and making connections with people. Mm-hmm. And so, I think going to events myself and plugging the event that I'm doing, meeting people through networking, and one of my passions is really connecting the right people to each other. Mm-hmm. And so, meeting you, Edward, and saying like, oh, I was just talking to someone who was looking for a DJ, and making that connection just really excites me. Okay. So, going to the places where I think people are going to be interested in what we're doing and inviting them to join us has been something I've really prioritized in my job.
Got it. So going out and almost evangelizing the event that you're sponsoring, how far out are we talking? Are we going out to promote an event days in advance, weeks in advance, and then also distance-wise, how far out away from the event do you want to travel to bring people to your event?
Yeah, so we really prioritize the outreach like 3 to 4 weeks in advance, and then we find that there's a huge uptick in RSVPs the week of the actual event. So I'm planning an event for next week, and the first thing I'm going to do Monday morning is send out 300 personal invites to our network list. And say, hey, this event's coming up, and we're really trying to boost attendance, 3 days prior. So we have a strategy that really is kind of a month out for publicity. And then in terms of distance, we are focused on the greater Pasadena area. So I'm not going to be going over to Santa Monica and saying like, hey, we welcome entrepreneurs from Santa Monica to come here and see what's happening here. But we're really focused on, Pasadena, Arcadia, Glendale, Burbank, like San Gabriel Valley. And so that gives us a very specific focus.
Let's talk about maintaining. You mentioned earlier that you have a email list. Mm-hmm. With that email list, how are you maintaining that list? Are you categorizing your emails into who's showing up at what type of events, maybe to promote to them in the future, or are you just emailing everybody in your network?
So we have a series of segmentation that we're doing with our email list. We have a specific email list for an event that we do called the Tech Leaders Forum, and those are C-level executives that we're focused on one specific event for that list. And maintaining that list has been a challenge because there sometimes is some turnover. And then we have this other list of people who are coming to our big networking mixers, and that's probably a list of like 800 to 900 people. Mm-hmm. And we're just continually inviting them every time we have a mixer, and that list has been growing as we've been building these mixers. Yeah.
Now, numbers always ring a bell with people. Mm-hmm. So you said 900. That's a huge list to have. Mm-hmm. How do you monetize that?
I think that I think one of the challenges we have is with the lists that we have is where those lists are hosted. And so when I say that we have 900 people who we have in a list for this specific event, those people aren't necessarily signed up for our newsletter. So I think the bigger challenge that we're talking about as an organization is how do we transition people from being solely in our event list to being regularly communicated with in our newsletter. So we're wanting to make sure that not only are people coming to our events, but they're saying, wow, this organization's providing us with a lot of great content, great events. I want to get on the newsletter and keep in touch with Innovate Pasadena. So I don't know if it's a question of monetizing, but I think it's more of a question of like, how do we further engage people after they come to an event?
Maintaining the organization. How many people are in Innovate Pasadena?
So we have 3 paid staff.
Okay.
And then our board of directors has 26 people, and we have we don't have a membership model per se, but we have about 2,000 people on our newsletter list. And then in the past 5 years, we've reached 70,000 people with our work.
That's a lot of people to reach with your work. How do you raise funds?
Yeah, so we're supported 3 different ways. We have annual sponsors, tech companies, educational institutions that support us, and they are on various levels from $5,000 to $25,000. And then we have event sponsors who say, hey, this mixer looks great. I want to get the word out about my company. And so they'll put up funds for that. And then we have a circle of major donors called our Leadership Circle. And these are philanthropic donors who are interested in the innovation and design community in Pasadena. And they donate on a yearly basis to our organization.
Playing the game of making your donors happy but keeping your patrons happy, there's like a fine line to make sure that that your patrons don't drop off and your donors don't drop off. What does that fine line look for you guys?
Yeah, I think that innovation is such a broad word, and it's used a lot. And so we have different people have different interpretations of what innovation means. And I think for some of our major donors, they're interested in the innovation related specifically to the design community, or some of them are, looking at blockchain or some of the new technologies that are coming up, and that's their specific interest in Innovate Pasadena. And then in our audience, we have the same kind of breadth of understanding of innovation. So I think we as an organization try to walk that line of, I guess it's more of a circle of holding this broad definition of innovation. And we really see all of those pieces, the scientific community, the artistic community, the entrepreneurial community, all of that is included. And it sometimes makes it hard to do what we do because we have such a broad view of innovation. But it's really exciting when you think about what each of those individual groups brings to the table.
I want to talk conversation, going back to the donor topic. If your donors are donating, they're obviously not expecting anything back in return. But for them to continue to donate, what's that conversation look like? Are you projecting a plan for them? Here's how we're going to grow. Here's what we're doing. Here's how we're going to reach out and give back to the community. Or are they just donating blindly?
Well, I think any good organization that's doing donor relations well is trying to cultivate their donors and keep them informed on what they're doing.
Okay.
So we've really tried to make an effort in the last year and a half to create better systems to keep our donors, especially our annual sponsors and our Leadership Circle members, informed. All of our events are open to those donors, and we try to engage them. And then we do about 2 or 3 events a year specifically for our donors to stay updated on what we're doing. So we're just putting better systems in place with reaching out and telling stories about our impact and really relaying to our sponsors, like, this is the benefit that we're providing you and the innovation community in Pasadena. So one of our most recent benefits that we've given to our middle-level sponsors is creating a video about their culture. And it's really awesome to go into these companies and say, hey, we're going to create this video about you. It's we're not like, you're not doing this for self-publicity. We're like an outside group that's coming in and saying how cool you are.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we just did a video for Electronic Arts, which is a huge
games.
gaming. Yeah, they have a office that's growing in Pasadena. They're scaling up really quickly. So
Awesome. So let's talk Bacpak.
Yeah.
With Bacpak, if Bacpak created a 501c3 event that we had consistently every month, how does that conversation look? What's a tip and trick that we can put into place for building donors for Bacpak?
Yeah, so I think I want to get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty with events and talk. It may be super boring, but one of the things that was really surprising to me was just when you do events, there's a lot of like permitting and insurance issues that you have to think about, especially if you're opening it to the public.
Awesome.
So anytime you're serving alcohol and the event's open to the public, you have to apply for a ABC permit and go out to Monrovia, submit your permit, and you have to get the police chief to sign off on it. I mean, maybe not the chief, but someone in the police department.
Sure.
So there's just some, real logistical things that you have to consider when you're throwing an event where you're serving alcohol or people are coming. You don't want to get sued, so you want to make sure you have insurance coverage. I think from the standpoint of getting people to come to your event, it's really, we've done a good job of really identifying who's going to benefit from coming to this. And we've experimented with a number of ways to make the event more successful at helping people connect when they're at the event. So one of the experiments we did is we had people identify with their specific sector when they showed up. And so on their name tag, it had a little sticker that said, I'm part of the tech community, or I'm an entrepreneur. And so those stickers were intended, like you could walk around the room and you could see, oh, hey, there's another person in my industry. I want to go and connect with them. So we've tried different experiments like that to help make networking easier for people when they come to a networking event.
You mentioned a couple minutes ago that you wanted to get into the nitty-gritty. I feel like we could have missed some tips and tricks that you have prepared for us. Is there anything that you wanted to discuss that?
I think, well, one other experiment that we did that I wanted to just highlight that worked really well is we had something that I think for the introverts in a group, they probably would have totally not appreciated this game. But
okay.
It's called People Bingo.
Interesting.
And we had a sheet that had 9 squares, and we said, we handed it to everyone as they came in the door and said, get bingo. So you only had to find 3 people across the row. And it was like, find someone who's on the board at Innovate Pasadena, find an entrepreneur or someone who started their own company. And as you find these people, you obviously talk to them and get to know them. And so when people would get bingo, they'd be entered into a raffle, and we raffled off a gift card to a local restaurant.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That creates an interactive element to the event to keep people interested.
And some people got so into it that they filled out all 9 boxes, even though they weren't supposed to.
Hey, yeah, that's more networking for them.
Right, the overachievers.
Yeah, right? So this is the time that we talk about you. So let's talk about any way that you would like people to get in contact with you, Innovate Pasadena, maybe some things that you're doing that you would like people to know.
Yeah, so Innovate Pasadena, we've been around for 5 years, and we are really, we see ourselves as an organization that promotes the innovation ecosystem here in Pasadena. So anyone who's interested in connecting with like-minded, entrepreneurs or designers or people who are just starting their own companies, you can visit innovatepasadena.org. And then all of our social media, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, as well as Instagram. And so all our platforms are there. And one of the programs I just want to promote that is ongoing for us is that we have a program called the Meetup Creator Program, and we support about 15 meetups throughout the city of Pasadena. Some of them are happening monthly, some are weekly. And this is an opportunity for you, if you're interested in any of our meetup topics, to get connected to a community of people that are working on, 3D printing or entrepreneurship or artificial intelligence. So those are groups that we support throughout the city that I would encourage people to get connected to, and that's all on innovatepasadena.org.
Fantastic. So now we transition into a song of my choosing.
Great.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
What I want you to do is sit back, enjoy the song, and at any given time, chime in with how the song makes you feel, what type of event the song would be good for, and what mood it sets for you. Here we go. How do you feel?
I feel like it's taking me back to a club I went to in Croatia.
Okay, talk to me about that.
So I was in college and we went to this club, and it was all these like 20-somethings from Europe.
Okay.
And we were just dancing until 5 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah. It kind of takes me back there.
All right. And we always give the last word to our guest on the show. Any last words, Holly?
I think that it's just for people who plan events. I think that the work that we do is so detail oriented, and it requires a lot of behind the scenes work, but pulling off a successful event is just really thrilling to see people come together and make connections and grow community. I think that's something that I feel really excited and passionate about. So I'm just appreciative that you're highlighting people who plan events, because I think that it's a unique role with unique challenges. And so thank you so much for hosting this podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Are you looking for a creative spin at your next event? Download the Bacpak app.